All right, so hi everyone, and let's get started of the first tutorial of ECON1210. So I would like to welcome you to the course as well. Let's start with this roadmap here. So basically, this is the structure of each tutorial. And we'll start with the key concept review of each topic, and then to move on to some discussion of the problems, which includes some simpler example questions and also some more complicated past exam problems. And during the tutorial, we'll also complete the attendance exercise. So this is basically the roadmap of each chapter, okay? And for this first tutorial in particular, we will also go through a little bit of course logistic and introduction. So while you might have a glance of my self-introduction PDF on Moodle, so let me still briefly introduce myself to you. So my name is Donald, and I will be the TA for the tutorial in this summer semester. So this is the 7th time that I'm tutoring this course. And a little bit of my background is that I have just completed my PGD program with a major in economics, right? The postgraduate diploma in education. So this is a little bit of my self-introduction. And a little bit more of my information is also listed here, right? My name, my email is put down here. And we will be having tutorials on 12 evenings, right, for 12 chapters. So I will walk you through the tutorial schedule a little bit later on Moodle. And I also hold regular office hours right after each tutorial, right, 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. So if you'd like to meet me during my regular office hours, so you should reserve a session via the scheduler on Moodle. So now let me shift my screen to Moodle to show the tutorial schedule and also the reservation of the slots. Right, so this is the Moodle page. And if you scroll down a bit, you should be able to find the tutorial section here. And just click this one. You should be able to find out the tutorial schedule, right? The dates and also in the calendar view. So we will have the tutorials, right, on these orange dates. And for the consultation reservation, so you click this one, Donald's consultation scheduler, and you should be able to find out some slots that you can book, right? So if you'd like to meet me during the regular consultation hour, just reserve a session here. Or alternatively, you can also reserve a session with me via email. Okay, so this is a little bit of the arrangement. And let me go back to the slide for the course assessments. So the first component is the weekly online quiz. The quizzes is already available on Moodle. Right, so multiple attempts are allowed for each question, but there will be marked deduction of 1/3 for an incorrect answer. Okay, as you can see, the yellow dates will be the deadline for the quizzes. And the next component will be the midterm exam, which has already been scheduled on July the 15th, right, which is a Monday, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. So it will be held online from home. While for the final exam, it has also been scheduled on the 9th of August, which is a Friday, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. So for the final exam, it will be conducted online in hall, which means that you need to bring your own electronic devices or your own laptop to the exam hall in HKU to attend the exam. Okay, so make sure that you are available on these 2 dates for the examinations. And the next thing about the assessments will be the tutorial participation, which accounts for 5% of the bonus points. So what is this? So this actually, you will have to complete some attendance exercise during each tutorial. So usually 2 in-class exercise for each tutorial, which is open at random times. Okay, so the score of tutorial attendance exercise will be counted towards this 5% bonus points. And we will count best 10 attempts over the 12 tutorials towards this 5%. So this will be the arrangement of the course assessments. So before going further, I would like to pause a little bit here to see if you have any questions about the course components and also the schedule. Right, so I'll take the silence as having no other issues. So I would like to go through the equipment checklist for you. So these are basically the tools that will help you solve the problems in this course. So for GeoGebra, it is actually a mathematical software that can plot graphs, right? So I have put down the link here, which you can download to your own devices or to use it online on the web page, okay? So I personally suggest you to use Calculator Switch, although I know Dr. Ho recommend Classic 6. So I personally use Calculator Suite just because the interface is better and also the functionalities in Classic 6 is also incorporated here. So anyway, you can just download one of the versions of GeoGebra to help you solve problems involving graphing. Okay, so make sure you are able, okay, you have a way to use GeoGebra by next tutorial because we will be using GeoGebra to help us solve some questions starting from the next class. Okay, so today we'll be using Excel and some online calculators with us. All right, so that's basically about the introduction part, and I would like to delve into the main discussion of today's topic, cost and benefit analysis. So let's review the concept of marginal benefit and marginal cost first. So what does it mean by marginal? Marginal simply means additional. And what is the decision rule to determine whether to do the nth unit of activity X as a rational individual? So imagine a following scenario where you are thinking whether to buy a can of Coke. Okay, so you may say that, oh, it is a very hot weather, I would like to buy a first can of Coke, right? So in this case, the marginal benefit for the first can of Coke is greater than or equal to the marginal cost, which is simply the price of that Coke. And you will ask this series of questions for more units. Let's say for the second unit, you will say that, oh, it's really, really very hot and I'm very thirsty. I still want the second can of Coke. So in this case, the second can of Coke is still having the marginal benefit greater than the marginal cost. But let's say for the third Coke, you may say that, oh, I'm already very full and I'm not that hot anymore. So in this case, you are not going to buy the third can of Coca-Cola. And it shows that the marginal benefit of the third Coke is smaller than the marginal cost or the price of the third can of Coke. Then this shows that with this simple example, the optimal level of consumption is 2 cans of Coke. And this is how we make decisions, okay, by applying the marginal benefit and marginal cost approach. And it also illustrates the idea of thinking at the margin. Right? So another concept to review is about total economic surplus. So as a rational individual, we will maximize our total economic surplus, which is defined as total benefit minus the total cost, where the total cost part here does not include the fixed cost or the sunk cost part. So this is why I put the word variable here to indicate that. So why is that the case? Because we know that sunk cost is a cost that cannot be recovered, right? You have to pay that amount of cost anyways. So this shows that sunk cost will not affect your decision-making process, and thus we would not include the sunk cost in the total cost here in our calculation of total economic surplus. Okay, so anyway, you will learn more about the concept of variable in a later chapter. So at this moment, just take the idea as given where we would not include the sunk cost in our decision-making process. All right, so the next concept to review is about opportunity cost, or we also simply say it is cost. And it is defined as the highest valued option foregone in making a choice. So let me make up a simple example to illustrate the following notes that I've put down here. Okay, so let's say you're imagining, okay, you're thinking what to do in this following hour. Okay, you have 3 options. The first one is to attend ECON1210 tutorial, okay, what you are doing right now. And the second option, let's say, is sleeping, okay, just like the cat here. And the third option is to play video games. For example, this is the ranking of your preference for the activities that you would like to engage in this following hour. Okay, so as a rational individual, you will attend the ECON1210 tutorial, right? Because it is the most preferred option. So if you're considering the cost of attending the tutorial, only the highest value option foregone is relevant. So this means that among the foregone option, which is these 2 options, you only consider the value of sleeping as your cost of attending the tutorial, right? So only the highest value option foregone is relevant. All right, so there's a first note. The second note, change in the value of the chosen option will not affect the cost. So let's say if there's a change in the value of attending the tutorial, it only affects the value part, but not the cost of attending the tutorial. Because, as I have just demonstrated, the cost of attending the tutorial is the value of sleeping, not the value of the tutorial itself. So this is why the change in the value of the chosen option will not affect the cost. All right, the third point, no choice implies no cost. So this should be straightforward. If you don't even have a choice to choose from, you must engage in that activity. Then there's nothing that you have forgo. So no choice implies no cost. And the fourth bullet point, full cost should be considered in determining the opportunity cost. So I have several smaller bullet points under this one, right? Full cost is money cost plus non-money cost, or we also say that full cost is explicit cost plus implicit cost. So let me make up some examples to illustrate the idea of explicit cost and implicit cost. So imagine the example of attending the university, attending college. So an example of explicit cost could be the tuition fee, because it will be the direct cost associated with the decision, right? The direct monetary payment that you really need to pay to the university to attend the university education. So the tuition fee that you pay to the university will be an example of explicit cost. All right, so how about implicit cost in this situation? It could be the income that you can potentially earn if you work as a full-time worker instead, right? So if you are not attending the university education, then you may find a full-time job and you earn certain amounts of income, right? So the potential income that you can earn in this job would be the implicit cost that you have forgo, right? So you do not pay out a certain amount of cost here, but this is the value lost from foregoing the alternative, foregoing the option of finding a full-time job. Okay, so this is also said to be the time cost. And there's also other kind of implicit cost that is not related to time. So let's imagine you own a few premises and you're thinking whether to use these premises for your own business or to rent it to others. So if you finally use the premises for your own business, then you forego the option to rent it to others. And the rental income that you can potentially earn would be the implicit cost in this example, and it is not related to time. Right, so these are some examples. And finally, the fifth bullet point, which is saying that some costs should not be included in the cost and benefit analysis. So again, it's straightforward because it is the cost that have to be paid anyways, and some costs cannot be recovered. So it should not affect the decision-making process. All right, so that's basically what I'd like to review with you. And at the same time, we'll move on to the discussion questions. So if you have any problems or issues with the review part, so you can let me know. And for each question, I will give you a little bit of time to glance through before I go into the detailed explanations. So you can just ask me any questions and to glance through this problem first. All right, so let me go through the statements one by one. So the first one, Jane will choose to consume to maximize total benefit. So it is false. Why? Because not only we need to consider the benefit of consumption, but also the cost part, right? So this is why we maximize total economic surplus instead of only considering the total benefit. All right, so statement two, given the price of $30 per cup, Jane would consume 11.5 cups. So we can apply the cost and benefit analysis here, which is Jane will continue to consume as far as the marginal benefit is greater than or equals to the marginal cost. So for the marginal benefit of coffee, it would be the expression directly given here, right? 40 minus 2m. While the marginal cost of consumption, it would be $30, the price of coffee. So if we equate 40 minus 2m, the marginal benefit, with 30, the marginal cost, then we are able to solve out the optimal level of consumption, which is n equals to 5. So as you can see, statement 2 is false. It is 5 cups instead of 11.5 cups as the optimal consumption level. All right, so that's all for question 1, and please take a look at question 2. All right, so for this kind of question, we would like to construct a marginal benefit table. And the marginal benefit is simply the number of additional broken sessions that can be repaired. So let me shift my screen to Excel to demonstrate how we can construct a marginal benefit table. All right, so you can see the slide and also the Excel on the right-hand side. Okay, so for the table on top is the numbers directly given the question. So how can we construct a marginal benefit table, and how can we interpret the marginal benefit figures? So let's say the marginal benefit of allocating the first worker to Hong Kong Island. What will be the number? It will be 70. Why? Because when there is 0 workers in Hong Kong Island, then 0 broken sessions can be repaired. But if you allocate the first worker to Hong Kong Island, it can repair 70 broken sessions. This shows that 70 additional broken sessions can be repaired, right? From 0 to 70. How about the second worker to Hong Kong Island? What will be the marginal benefit? It would be 10. Why? Because by allocating the second worker to Hong Kong Island, the number of broken sessions that can be repaired will increase from 70 to 80. 10 additional broken sessions can be repaired. So this is why the marginal benefit of the second worker to Hong Kong Island is 10. Okay, so let me demonstrate for one more unit. So how about the third worker to Hong Kong Island? The number of additional broken sessions that can be repaired would be 89 minus 80. 9 broken sessions can be repaired by allocating the third worker, right? Okay, so since this logic applies to the fourth worker as well, so you can just pull down to obtain the remaining number. And since this logic also applies to Kowloon and new territories, so you can just pull the whole column to the right, and you will be able to obtain the whole marginal benefit table for our analysis. Okay, so as mentioned in the question, there are 6 workers to allocate into these 3 areas. How can we determine whether each worker is allocated to which area? So let's say for the first worker, if you allocate to Hong Kong Island, it can repair 70 additional broken sessions. And if you allocate to Kowloon, 40 additional broken sessions can be repaired. While if you allocate to new territories, 25 additional broken sessions can be repaired. And since 70 is the greatest number among the 3, then the first worker should be allocated to Hong Kong Island to repair more broken sessions. All right, so how about the second worker out of these 6 workers? So if you allocate the second worker to Hong Kong Island, it will be the second worker on Hong Kong Island, obviously. So 10 additional broken sessions can be repaired. But if you allocate the second worker out of these 6 workers to Kowloon, it is only the first worker in Kowloon. So we'll be looking at the number 40. Okay, and similar logic, if you allocate the second worker to new territories, it will be the first worker in new territories. So we are looking for the number 25. And we will be comparing 10, 40, and 25. Since 40 is the greatest number among the three, so the second worker out of these 6 workers should be allocated to Kowloon. And let me demonstrate for one more worker. So if you allocate to Hong Kong Island, we'll be looking for this number 10. If you allocate to Kowloon, looking for 20. Or if you're allocating to new territories, looking for 25. So we'll be comparing 10, 20, and 25 for the third worker. And since 25 is the greatest number, so the third worker should be allocated to new territories. And continue this series of logic for the remaining 3 workers, then you should be able to find out that 1 worker should be allocated to Hong Kong Island, 4 to Kowloon, and 1 to new territories. And this is how we can solve this kind of problem. All right, so let me go back to the slide. And basically what I've put down here is the method that I've just introduced to you. So I'm not going into details word by word. So you can just glance through a little bit later to consolidate your understanding. And yeah, so the result put down here. Okay, so yeah, so please take a look at question 3 before I go into the explanations. Okay, so let me start explaining this question. So we have 3 choices. The first one being a professor at HKU, the second one being an advisor at HKMA, and the third one being a sales representative at Utopia Electric. So we are going to find the options that increase the opportunity cost of being a professor at HKU. So remember, when we are talking about opportunity cost, we are considering the highest value option for God. So this means that the cost of being a professor would be the value of being an advisor, right? The highest valued option for God. So we are going to observe which of the following choices would increase the value of being an advisor at HKMA. So let's see. The first one, HKMA requires an advisor to work longer hours. So this would be increasing the time cost of working in HKMA, right? So this is affecting the cost of option 2, but not option 1. So B, HKMA decides to increase the remuneration of its advisors. So this will increase the income, or essentially the value of being an advisor at HKMA. So this will be the correct answer, right? So because the cost of option 1 is the value of option 2. When the value of option 2 increases, this would increase the opportunity cost of being a professor at HKU. So B will be the correct answer, but let's still take a look at C and D as well. So C, students in HKU are becoming more rebellious. So this is actually affecting the value of option 1. So why? So if students are becoming more rebellious, then you as a professor at HKU would be having less satisfaction in your teaching job. So your value of option 1 would decrease. And finally, D, Utopia Electric decides to increase the bonuses of its sales representative. So the idea is similar to option boy, right? So this would increase the value of option 3. And likely you may ask, what about if the value of option 3 increase a lot, such that it surpasses the original value of option 2? Then in this case, the opportunity cost of being a professor at HKU will increase, right? It will become the value of the new option 3. However, this is not possible because the question assumes the preference or the ranking of options remain unchanged. So it cannot happen the case that the value of option 3 surpasses the value of option 2. So this is why D cannot be a correct answer. Right? So the only correct answer would be boy. Okay, so that's all for question 3, and we'll move on to question 4. All right, so let's go through numbers one by one to calculate your total opportunity cost of the summer vacation. Okay, so you have been able to get time off work at the job where you normally work 40 hours a week at $12 per hour. So this would be an implicit cost in this example, right? Because when you go to the summer vacation, you forgo the option to work at a job to earn income. So this would be an implicit cost in this example. Okay, so 40 hours a week at $12 per hour. So the implicit cost part here, 480. All right, so the next number, your parents are paying 1,500 for the cabin rental. So this 1,500 should not be included in the opportunity cost because this 1,500 is paid by your parents, not you. Okay, you need to calculate your total opportunity cost here. So this is why 1,500 is not included. Right, so let's continue. Each child, including yourself, will pay $200 for food and other related costs. So part of this 200 should be included. So why only part of it? Because in typical days, you would pay $75 per week for food. So this is why only the additional 125 is directly related to the activity of going on a summer vacation. So we only include the extra 125 as part of the explicit cost. Right? So let's continue. You have owned the rented apartment with a monthly rent $300. So this 300 should not be included in your total opportunity cost because no matter you go on a summer vacation or not, you still need to pay this fixed amount of monthly rent to the landlord. And finally, the travel costs get to the cabin and back will cost you $50 more than your usual weekly travel expenses. So this $50 will be another example of explicit cost in this situation. Okay. So finally, the answer to this problem is just to sum up all the green highlighted numbers, right? 480 plus 125 plus 50 will be your total opportunity cost of the summer vacation, 655. All right, so that's all for this question, and please take a look at this problem. It is a past exam question. All right, so for this question, we would like to solve the values of N and M, the optimal consumption of salmon and oyster. So with two unknowns, likely we'll construct two equations to develop a system of simultaneous equations. So what are the two equations? The first one is MBN equals to MBM. So why? Imagine the optimal consumption happens when MBN is more than MBM. Then in that case, you as a rational individual should spend a little bit less money on salmon and a little bit more money on oyster. Then in that case, your total benefit would increase, holding the total cost of consumption remain unchanged. So this is why the optimal consumption cannot happen when one side is not equal to the other side of the marginal benefit. Okay, the marginal benefit must be equal at the optimal point of consumption. So this is the first equation. We equate 1030 minus 4n with 2570 minus 19n. So the equation that I'll put down here. So by the way, the form here is just a simplified version for better presentation, and you actually do not need to do so. Okay, I will show you a little bit later. And the second equation is the budget constraint, which is because Veronica has $80 in total, right? $80. So this is why N plus M, the dollar amount on the two goods, equals to $80. Okay. So with two equations, then we are able to solve the values of N and M. And here, let me introduce the online calculator so that we can solve the question quickly. Let me shift my screen to the online calculator here. All right, so we'll be using Simulab to help us solve the system. Okay. All right, you can see the online calculator here. So what you need to do is just to type the two equations that I have just constructed, right? 1030 minus 4n equals to 2570 minus 19m, okay? And the second equation is n plus m equals to 80, and then click go. And afterwards, the online calculator will give you the solution. Okay, and you should be able to find out that n is the negative 0.87. We have a negative solution for n, and this is not logical, right? Because we cannot spend a negative dollar amount on a good. So this is why the closest solution that we can attain is to allocate nothing on salmon and allocate everything on oyster. Okay, $0 on salmon and $80 on oyster as an optimal point of consumption. And in fact, how can we interpret the negative value of n? It simply means that the marginal benefit from oyster is always greater than the marginal benefit for salmon for the first $80. So this is the interpretation of the number. Okay, so this shows that we need to do a little of checking sometimes. But in case you solve out the values of n and m, which are both positive, then you can just directly take the results as the answer. Okay, so this is the special case that you need to do a little bit of checking here. Okay, so that's about this problem, and we'll move on to the next one. Please take a look. Okay, so let me start with the explanation. So we know that Calvin decides to watch 28 movies per month under the scheme. So what would be the range of values of P, the price per movie? Because Calvin decides to watch 28 movies, this means that the marginal benefit from the 28th movie is greater than or equals to the marginal cost, which is the price. So this is the first inequality. And at the same time, Calvin is watching 28 movies, but not the 29th movie. So this means the marginal benefit of the 29th movie is lower than its marginal cost or the price of the movie. So we have two inequalities here. So how can we find the marginal benefit of the 28th and the 29th movie? We just plug in n equals to 28 or 29 back into the marginal benefit function here, then we would be able to find out the marginal benefits accordingly. And we will be able to solve this compound inequality to find out the p is between 19 and 33. And likely you may ask, why we are not considering the $45? So because we know that Calvin decides to watch 28 movies under the scheme, this means that Calvin will choose to subscribe the scheme already, right? So this kind of showing that the $45 is a sunk cost that would not affect the decision-making process of Calvin. So this is why the $45 is kind of ignored in our calculation process. Okay, so that's all for this question, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so for this question, again, we would like to solve the values of n and m. The technique is somehow similar to the first past exam question that I've just gone through with you. So we would like to construct the two equations to solve the system of simultaneous equations. So for the first equation, it is MCN equals to MCM. The logic is similar. If MCN happens to be smaller than MCM, then the company manager should allocate a little bit more time for Donald to work on and a little bit less time to Joshua to work on. And in that case, the total cost will be reduced. Okay, so at the optimal point, we will have MCN equals to MCM. So we just equate these two marginal costs to have this equation here. All right, and the second equation will be the time constraint, because the job is accounting for 29 hours. So n plus m will be equals to 29. So this is the second equation. So we just put these two equations into online calculator, okay, and we will be able to solve out the solutions. Okay, n and m to be these two numbers. Okay, numerically, n will be around 10.62, and m will be approximately 18.38. So this is how we can solve the system here. And again, you can see that I do not need to do any simplification for the first equation, right? So anyway, you can find any method to solve the simultaneous equations. You can just use the physical calculator with the simultaneous equation program installed, or to use the GeoGebra as well for the graphical method. Okay, so that's all for this problem, and we'll move on to the final question in this tutorial. So for this question, actually, Chloe has three options to choose from, either to visit Ocean Park, or to work as a part-time waitress, or to work as a student tutor. So Chloe has three choices. So Chloe will choose to go to Ocean Park if X is at least what value. So we are going to compare the economic surpluses of these three activities to find out the answer. So what is the economic surplus of visiting Ocean Park? The benefit side would be X dollars, right? Because Chloe is willing to pay $8 to go to Ocean Park, while the cost side is the price of the ticket, $200. So this is why the economic surplus of going to Ocean Park is X minus 200. How about the economic surplus of working as a waitress? Let me use another color. It would be $400, right? To work for 3 hours, $400 can be earned in total. So the economic surplus of working as a part-time waitress is 400. And finally, the economic surplus of working as a student tutor would be $160 per hour and 3 hours for work in total. So the income that she can earn as a student tutor is 160 times 3, which is 480. So likely you may ask why we are not considering the $50 here in our decision making. Let me take the economic surplus of working as a part-time waitress as an example. So on one hand, this $50 will be treated as a willingness to pay, or the benefit of working as a waitress. So the benefit side, you need to add 50. But on the other side, this $50 can be treated as a MTR fare, right? So this is the cost of going to work. So you need to subtract that by 50 at the same time. So this is why the $50 is kind of cancel out each other. And this is why I did not include this $50 in the economic surplus of the waitress or the tutor job. Okay, so this is about the economic surpluses of the three activities. And obviously, the economic surplus of working as a tutor is always greater than that of working as a waitress. So we can kind of neglect the second option here. And finally, if Chloe decides to go to Ocean Park, then the economic surplus of going to Ocean Park, which is X minus 200, must be greater than or equal to the economic surplus of working as a tutor, which is 480. And this is an inequality that we'd like to solve. And we'll have the solution X greater than or equals to 680. All right, so that's all about this problem and also the content of this tutorial. And it will be the time for the attendance exercise. So the first time, let me give you 6 minutes in total for you to complete. And I will close the quiz at around 9:24. Okay, so you can just go to Moodle and to scroll down a bit near to the bottom. You will be able to see in-class T01A and E. Okay, so give you some time to complete that. So 1.5 minutes left. Okay, so time is up and I'll close the quiz very soon. And thank you very much for joining the tutorial today, and we will see each other at the same time 2 days later. So if you have any question, you can stay behind and ask them. Thank you for joining.